Hi, and welcome to the Quitcast. My name is Becca. Today we are talking about what happens when I grow. And those of you who've heard me talk before about sustainability know that how I plan for growth to happen is really important in terms of not all of us are making plan people, right? So you don't have to have a 10-year plan laid out for how you're going to grow. So we'll talk about the two different ways of how to respond to growth, whether you're a planner or not. But I do want to talk about why we need to plan for growth, first of all. I think I mentioned this in one of the previous videos. One of the most common questions I get from people who've had success is, why can't I write the way that I used to? And so we often go through a battery of questions about, what did it look like when you were first publishing and what does it look like today? And almost always the only difference between what their life looks like then versus now is that now they're running a big successful business. And before they were just writing, and they may have been doing, even on some level, they might have been doing some ads, they might have been doing some social media or some learning. But on some level, their primary goal and function was writing. But those of you who know what growth looks like, so many of us are trying to grow a big business before we know that the business will be able to sustain itself. And this is why often when we have sustainability discussions, the hard truth that I have to deliver at first is some of you are running a bigger business than you can sustain. You have too much advertising going on. You have too much social media going on. You have too much other stuff going on, and you don't know if the writing itself can sustain the growth of the business yet. You need to spend more time focusing on the product that you're building and making sure that what you're doing is both replicatable, like we talked about last time, and also that it's needed or necessary to the market. Because the downside of being in an entertainment market is that the majority of products that are created for the market are not needed by the market. The majority of books don't sell, right? And that is not that they aren't good. It's not that the writers who are writing them aren't good. It's that most books don't sell just by nature. Most books don't sell well, let's say. It's possible for all books to sell or for most books to sell on some level, and I would expect that they do. But in terms of being able to sustain a growing business, the product itself is not selling. And so the first thing we don't do often enough is we don't spend enough time trying to make sure that we can produce a product that the market wants and that will sustain a business in the market. And that's a very painful question. And some of you are going to a damn it, Becca place with me already in the first couple of minutes of the podcast. And we need to get you into coaching with somebody about that, because that is a very painful moment for some of us when we realize that we're trying to build a business on a product that the market has said it doesn't want. And instead, we are doing a lot of work. Like if you imagine that the actual writing of the books and knowing whether or not you can do something that will sell to a market is a certain percentage, and then the actual business work is a different percentage. Many of us are spending a ton of time in that top half, whether or not the bottom half is going to sustain it. And eventually that business will fold. And the pain point, I am not pretending that that's not painful. I know that it's painful. I've been there before. Anybody who's an entrepreneur on some level has done something that didn't work out or that didn't sell, or has, and again, those of us who've been in writing for a long time, we know that not all of our books are going to sell equally, or hopefully we do. If we don't yet, not all of your series or books are going to sell equally on your platform, even on your own platform. Skye Warren talks about this a lot. Elena Johnson has talked about this before, right? Where not all of your books perform at the same level. So with that knowledge and thinking about them merely as products, only as products, is the product that you're making going to appeal to the market? Whether you're writing it to market or not doesn't matter. Not everybody writes to market, and not everyone should write to market. Not everyone should even think about the market. But regardless of whether you're intentionally writing to the market or not, is what you're doing something that the market has responded to, and do they want it? And yes, we need to put a good faith effort into seeing if the market wants it or not. But once it doesn't and it has spoken, then we have to ask, am I doing too much business? Like, am I trying too hard to run a business when I don't have a product that will sustain that business? And that question, again, is very painful. And I understand it. If some of you are not happy that I'm having this conversation today, feel free to turn me off. It's okay. Not everybody's ready to talk about or think about this, right? But if I am not writing books that the market wants right now, or that the market has shown that it wants, despite my good faith effort, then I need to spend either more time on the product itself, not on the products that you've already put out necessarily, but just in product development, in research and development, or I need to just keep iterating what I'm doing or what I have done before that's been successful. And that attitude, in terms of, there is no precious thing, like anything can easily be moved to the side if it needs to, is definitely one of the elements of success. When I hold something in too high of an esteem in terms of like how much I weight the need for it to do this particular thing, that's often when our out of balance comes, where we are having a harder time sustaining our time and sustaining our energy, and like the expectations that we talked about last time. So anyway, the first question that I always want to ask us in when we're talking about this particular part of sustainability is, how is the market handling the product? And do you have evidence to prove that you should continue to invest more time and more money into this thing? And again, I apologize for being unempathetic in this particular segment, because I think some of us really need to take a harder look at that part of our business, because we're spending a lot and wondering why we're not getting it back. And sometimes the answer is the market has said, we don't want this right now. And it might be about the product itself, or it might just be timing. We don't know that for sure. There are so many thousands of reasons why books might not sell. But what we do want to do is be really cautious about spending too much time in that place where we're running the business if the products that we're making are not sustaining the business that we're running. So again, hard, I know, I apologize, but I need to get into this segment about what happens when that return happens, because this is almost always the pain point of the growing business for indies, and really probably for all authors and all entrepreneurs on some level, is that when your products are wanted, when they're doing well, then you hit a very quick ceiling where you can no longer sustain the business on your own. And it happens for people where they burn out and they realize they were doing too much, and they either have to scale back or they have to take on help. It happens with people when they lose assets that are in other areas of their life, like they might lose relationships, they might lose jobs, they might lose other things because they're spending so much time trying to pour everything they have into this business. And then the pain point question becomes, in that case, this is where I usually see them, right? Where they've had a lot of success, they're really struggling. And often the pain point is, I can't ask for help. I can't find help. I can't find help. And I would say, generally speaking, it isn't that help isn't available, it's that help is more expensive. Like, really good help is more expensive than help where I have to do the majority of the work to train and manage that person, right? So there's a difference between help does not exist versus I'm not able or willing to pay what I need to pay to get the help that I need, because there are people out there who can and do the work. It's just that, generally speaking, the people who have the capacity that this particular type of person is asking for are not cheap. And that's just the hard truth, right? They're not cheap. But I do find in the sustainability discussions that I have with clients, and just in general with authors, even if they're not coaching with me, the the price is worth it because of the load of responsibility that it takes off of your head. Because again, returning to the question, the most common question we got early on about sustainability is, after I've already burned out, why don't I like writing as much as I used to? Or why do I not write as much as I used to? And I would look again at their percentages and say, well, you're spending 95% of your time running your business, and then available time, not complete time. They had family and other things, but 95% of your time running your business. And then the leftover is writing, instead of writing being, this is your product creation. Like, you can't run the business without making products to sustain the business. And so having to make that shift into, but how am I still going to get all of this 95% of stuff done? That is where the sustainability question comes in, because you are likely going to have to hire people to help you, which means you have to be making enough money to hire help that's competent enough to get you the support that you need, where you are not thinking about it anymore. You are no longer managing those people, but they are doing their own work and are responsible for themselves. And that can be an expensive proposition, right? And so we have to know that by taking that off of your plate, that they will be worth the investment that you're putting onto them, and also that it will actually free your time up. So we can't just then give off 45% of the business to somebody, and then you fill that time with another 45% of business stuff and still are not doing product creation. So again, the sustainability question that often follows success is, am I prepared for success to happen? And I mean prepared on an emotional level and prepared on am I watching for it? So some of us are very big planners, right? We're looking ahead, we're forecasting, we're budgeting, we're doing all of that kind of pre-planning stuff. And then some of us are reactors, where when the success happens, we're jumping into response mode, which is not always a bad thing, as long as we recognize, oh, these are growing pains. Oh, these are growing pains. When I'm having success and running out of time, those are growing pains. That's often when you need to see me the most. And again, or someone else who's a success coach, right? Like someone who can help you prepare for that growth. Because so often when you run out of your own capacity, there are barriers to you being able to just offload things. Not always, but often. So if you're in that place, again, make sure that you're reaching out for help to someone. Again, doesn't have to be us, but when I coach people in this particular place, we often have to do some interior work about how I trust people to get work done, how I manage people. And again, not all of us have a business background. So some of us don't have skills to do these things. And that's also daunting. So again, so often in the sustainability questions, success is a bigger problem than we think it's going to be, because it isn't just that somebody's giving you piles and piles of money, but not expecting anything from you. No, when the piles of money come, expectations and responsibilities and work come along with it. And if you want to manage a growing platform, or you want to maintain or grow a platform, it's going to constantly take that question of, is this growth at a point where I now need to build something to sustain it, right? And we've talked in the past about the organizational growth curve. We're going to talk more about that next week. I'm actually going to go through the breakdown of the organizational growth curve and talk about that. But all I want you to do today is be looking at where you are in your own growth of your business. Have you hit a breaking point where your success is big enough that you no longer can do everything on your own and you need support? Have you hit a breaking point where you need to spend more time working on the product itself, iterating the product, spending less time learning how to do social media well, and less time learning how to do all of these other marketing things well, and more time learning how to make a product that meets the needs of the market? And again, not everybody does that intentionally. Some people do not and should not write to market. So that's not the answer here. But what I'm saying is, you have to do the assessment for yourself. Where are you? So next week, we're going to talk more about the organizational growth curve. And I apologize for not pulling punches today. I feel like this is the conversation about sustainability nobody wants to have is, am I actually running a sustainable business? Is the product that I'm making generating enough potential income? Because this is what this question is about. It's not about what money am I making, because you can be making a very small amount of money, but see that there's an investment potential because the response of the market is huge. You just haven't advertised yet, or you haven't promoted yet, or whatever, but the response that you're getting is big. And again, I've said this before, this does not mean that every review is 5 stars, because every review being 5 stars generally means that it's not being read widely enough, unless every review is 5 stars at 500 reviews. That's different. But that's a whole different problem, right? A sustainability problem. But generally speaking, if you have the capacity to grow and you do promote and advertise, you will see growth happen. So anyway, all right, I'm going to stop. We're going to talk more about the organizational growth curve next time. Hopefully this has helped. If you do have questions, please ask them. You can join us on the Patreon if you want group coaching or if you want individual coaching. We also have public coaching every month. That'll be coming up at the beginning of October if you want to catch us on Crowdcast. Otherwise, I will see you next week on the Quitcast. Bye, everybody.